Hello everyone, and welcome to the City of Bel Air Beach final budget public hearing. It is now 6:30 p.m. September 18th, and this meeting will come to order. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Renee, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Here.
Councilmember Lloyd Roberts.
Present.
Councilmember Kim Elliott.
Present.
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Here.
City Manager Kyle Riefler.
Here.
And City Attorney Randy Moore.
Present. Thank you, Renee. All right, let's move right on to item number 1. This is consideration of resolution number 2024-05. Mr. Moore, would you please?
Yes, Mayor, I'm with your indulgence. I'm going to read the entire resolution. This is resolution number 2024-05, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, establishing the final ad valorem millage rate for the fiscal year 2024-2025 for the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida at 2.0394 mils and establishing an effective date. Whereas the annual estimate of anticipated revenues and expenditures of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida for the fiscal year commencing October 1, 2024 and ending September 30, 2025 has been submitted by the City Manager in accordance with Article 8 of the City Charter, and whereas the City Council has reviewed the City Manager's proposed budget, amended it, and tentatively adopted the amended budget, and whereas the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida is required by the City Charter to adopt an annual operating and capital improvement budget for each fiscal year, and whereas said budget must indicate the proposed tax levy for the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, and whereas observed all due process and appropriate procedures required by the City Charter in Chapter 200.065 of the Florida statutes, including notice of public hearing, the City Council now deems it necessary, proper, and in the best interest of the public to adopt by resolution the millage rate. Now, therefore, the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida hereby resolves that the ad valorem tax millage rate for fiscal year 2024-2025 is hereby established at 2.0394 mils. That the millage rate levied is higher than the rollback rate of 1.8518 as certified by the county appraiser on July 1st, 2024, and has increased by 10.13%. That this resolution shall take effect immediately upon final adoption. This has been a full and final reading of resolution number 2024-05, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Riefler, do you have anything to add?
No, sir.
All right, let's go to the citizens for comments. Anyone would like to speak? All right, citizen comments are now closed. I'm going to need a motion to approve resolution number 2024-05. Motion made by Mr. Roberts.
Yes, I move that we approve resolution number 2024-05.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Roberts, you have the floor.
Since about 15 minutes ago, we just discussed this and approved it, I think it's time to vote.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Would any other council member like to speak on this topic? All right. Renee, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bankert.
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Yes.
Councilmember Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Gaddis.
Yes. And so the resolution passes unanimously. The final millage rate for the City of Bel Air Beach is 2.0394 mils for fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2024 and ending September 30th, 2025, and is 10.13% higher than the rollback rate of 1.8518 mils due to a 10.55% increase in property values. The purpose for setting the millage rate at 2.0394 is to fund the general fund expenses for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025. All right, let's move on to item number 2. There we go. Item number 2. This is for consideration of resolution number 2024-06. Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is resolution number 2024-06 to be read in full. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, making appropriations for certain expenditures, expenses, capital improvements, and certain indebtedness of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2024 and ending September 30, 2025, and establishing an effective date. Whereas the City of Bel Air Beach will begin a new fiscal year on October 1, 2024, and whereas it is necessary and required that prior to beginning a new fiscal year, a budget should be passed and adopted for the operation of city government. And whereas the City Council has held the 2 required public hearings on the proposed budget fiscal hearing beginning October fiscal year beginning October 1, 2024 and ending September 30, 2025. Whereas there is hereby established a tax at the rate of 2.0934 mils on the property assessed as of January 1, 2024 for the purpose of raising revenue for general fund operations. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida. Section 1, that the documents entitled City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, Final Annual Budget Fiscal Year 2024-2025 dated September 16, 2024 comprise the total amount of $4,871,075 for all funds reported. Section 2, the budget is being presented as a balanced budget whereby there are sufficient revenues to offset all estimated expenditures and expenses. Section 3, all budget appropriations are based upon the total expenditure and expenses, even though the budget has been prepared based on line items and summarized to a categorical level. Section 4, appropriations may be transferred for the purpose of equalization when needed by a budget transfer with approval of the city manager as necessary. This action will not change the total dollar amount of the budget. Section 5, the City Council during fiscal year 2020-2024-2025 may, by resolution, make any amendments to the budget adopted by this resolution as it may deem necessary and proper. Section 6, all budget amendments requesting additional expenditures or expenses must also identify the corresponding funding source. Section 7, cash balance reserves shall be carried forward for prior year encumbrances and reappropriated upon open purchase orders, which will be paid in fiscal year 2024-2025. Section 8, this resolution shall become effective on and after October 1, 2024. This has been a full and final reading of resolution number 2024-06 concerning the budget, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager Mora. Mr. Reefer, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, sir.
All right, let's go to the citizens for comments. Would anyone like to speak on this topic? All right, citizen comments are now closed. I'm going to need a motion for approval of resolution number 2024-06. Do I have a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2024-06 as read in full.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Ms. Elliott, would you like to comment?
No further comment other than the fact that we have the millage rate set. This budget is acceptable and we do not provide for any deficits that we're aware of this time.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from the council? All right, seeing as we have none, Renee, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Yes.
Councilmember Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Gaddis.
Yes. And so the resolution 2024-06 passes unanimously. Resolution 2024-06 is adopted, establishing a budget for the City of Bel Air Beach for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2024 and ending September 30th, 2025, with a final millage rate of 2.0394 mils, which is 10.13% higher than the rollback rate of 1.8518 mils. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion. Motion made.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned. We're going to move right over to the next meeting. All right, here we go. Does anyone need a break before we start? No? All right. Good evening, everyone. It is now 6:38 p.m. and the September 18th, 2024 City Council meeting will come to order. This evening's invocation is presented by Councilmember Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you'd like to bow your head, that would be wonderful. Heavenly Father, most times when we start these meetings with an invocation, we mostly talk about things that we need help with. And that's a good thing, because things always work out better when we go to you first. Tonight, I'd really like to spend some time talking about the blessings that you provide to us in the wonderful city of Bel Air Beach. My wife and I have been here almost 5 years, Father, you know that. And it never confuses me when I come across the bridge and the beauty that I get to see and the blessings that I get to see in this wonderful city. There's people who save all year to come and take vacations here, and we actually live here. So that blessing, we all thank you for that, Father. The people that live in this wonderful city, the neighbors, the friends, you know, when I drive through the city, Father, and you know this, I get to see people walking their dogs, they stop to talk to their neighbors, they have conversations, they enjoy each other, and you know better than I that this is not always that every town or city gets to benefit from. So thank you, Father, for all of these things that we get from your blessings. In closing, Father, I'd like to also, I just had a thought earlier this week that, the city has the opportunity to spend 3 minutes up at the podium to talk about anything they want to that's not already on the agenda. Wouldn't it be kind of a wonderful thing if we had citizens and people who live here take the opportunity to come up to that podium and talk with you, Father, about things that you have given to them, things they're happy about, even challenges that are maybe before them. So I'd just like to toss that out there, Father, that if the citizens and people of our city want to do that, that would be awesome. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Now, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Renee, I'm going to ask you to call roll again.
Councilmember Frank Baker.
Present.
Councilmember Lloyd Roberts.
Here.
Councilmember Kim Elliott.
Still present.
Mayor Tate Gaddis.
Here.
City Manager Kyle Riefler.
Here.
And City Attorney Randy Mora.
Present. Thank you, Renee. All right. First item is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion is made by Frank Baker. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The agenda is approved. Now we move on to citizen comments. If a citizen would like to address the council about a topic not already on the agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be called on. We ask that you limit your time to no more than 3 minutes, and remember to direct all questions and comments to the council. Would anyone like to speak? Yes, sir.
Sort of as a follow-up to Councilmember Roberts.
Could you state your name?
Pardon?
Could you state your name and address for the record?
Leslie Notero. As a follow-up to Councilmember Roberts' invocation, I hope you guys all got to see that full moon last night. It was unbelievable. That's it.
Thank you very much. Would any other citizens like to speak? Yes, sir.
I'd like to thank you guys and gals for giving us the opportunity to bring some issues here. My name is Glenn Daniels, 921 Cedar Drive. I have a very simple question, actually, and it's actually for the city manager. I'm just wondering, are we still on pace, on schedule, in order to get the, valve put in order to keep from the flooding that's happening at the end of the block?
We don't respond during citizen comments. What we do is we give the responses whenever the city manager's time comes up. So it's not a back and forth conversation.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? All right, citizen comments are now closed. All right, item 3, we have presentations from Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. It looks like we only have code enforcement. Is that correct?
At this time, yes, sir.
Okay. Come on up, Deputy Trump.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Trump for Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. I am the Code Enforcement Officer. I apologize. I do not honestly know what the report is as far as the sergeant or corporal that would be normally presenting for you, and I can try and find the answer for you.
I can probably answer that for you. It's because we're off schedule.
And that very well may be that they didn't get the notice that the meeting had been changed. So
It's not the first time that's happened, so it's probably on us, but I don't know.
anyway, we can catch up next meeting if we need be as far as anything major that happens and stuff, and I'll make sure to pass that.
I think City Manager Reaver, you have that report, so you could give that, you could give the report after Deputy Trump gets his code enforcement report. That work? Sure, yes, okay, great.
My report's very short for the month. I have 35 entries throughout that. The main thing we dealt with, again, with the hot weather in the summer, is the high grass issues and weeds and things like that in front yards and stuff. So that's one of the major issues that we are trying to address with the residents and trying to take care of that. Other than that, we had a couple of trailers and boats that were easily taken care of. A couple of unmaintained pools that one of the cases is still kind of ongoing with that one because at the point there's nobody in the residence and we're trying to follow up with family members and trying to get some other help with that. Beach enforcement's been a little bit light this month. One, I was on vacation. Two, because of the extreme high tides that we've been having, and unfortunately we've lost the beach through the storms and everything else. So it's a little bit harder to get out in the ATV, but we are trying to get out there. I know the nighttime guys have been out there quite a bit, as much as they can with the lower tides, and trying to watch. So with that, basically I had 5 entries reference just other enforcements, which are contacts, found property, an alarm call, and a meeting that I needed to attend. Anything else or any questions that I can answer for you?
Councilman.
I have one question, and this is not directly related to Bel Air Beach, but I wonder if you could provide any insight on the number of what seem to be derelict boats that are out in the harbor here.
The derelict boats are handled by our Marine Enforcement Office. They are, actively tagging those vessels as they can. Again, understand that it's not an overnight process in order to get. I used to be in charge of the Marine unit myself before I originally retired the first time. It usually takes sometimes 30 to possibly 60 days to get these boats out because one, they have to go through a type of investigation in order to try and find the owner. Try and give the owner has to have the opportunity in order to bring the boat back into code, raise the vessel. It's been sunk, like there's a sailboat over there at the moment right now, which has been tagged. Anyway, they have to have a certain opportunity in a certain amount of days. After that, it would go to, once that hearing is done and is deemed that the boat is basically able to be salvaged, then we would take over the boat. And then after that, you have to get a salvage company out there and get them contracted through funds with the state and county in order to get the boat either raised or towed out and basically disposed of. So it's just not an overnight process, unfortunately.
No, and I understand that, but I am concerned whether it is budgeted. I mean, are there funds available to help deal with these things?
The major amount of funds usually comes through grants by the state through FWC, but the county does kick in a certain amount of funds to try and help with the ongoing problem. But the majority of the funds come through grants through FWC.
Can you provide any insight as to why this is happening with seemingly more frequency?
Man, just through history and everything else, you get people that have lived on these boats, and for some reason they're not living on them anymore, or they do live on them, and unfortunately they become so deteriorated that they will fall under that category. You'll get the boats that people just can't afford to take care of them anymore, maintain them, and they'll basically anchor them out there and let them go, and just don't maintain them anymore, and eventually they're going to fall into that category again.
Thank you.
So it's various.
Yeah, and I think historically we have been no boats, and all it takes is one, and there's two, and it just continues on.
It does. I know there's a couple out there right now on the other side of the bridge, and I know that they have been tagged, like the Sun Sailboat. You can see the tag that's actually on the mast itself. And our Marine unit is doing a really good job because we have over 700 miles of coastline in Pinellas County alone itself. And there is, a lot of boats throughout Madeira Beach, throughout Bel Air Bluffs, Dunedin, all these major cities, St. Pete. St. Pete usually takes care of most of their own, but we do help out in the St. Pete area of that, and with FWC also. So all the entities are in there trying to, handle this problem and keep up with it.
Is the Southern boat leaking?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, as far as I would assume you're talking about fuels or things.
Yes.
Not to my knowledge, no. If they had problems with leaking fuel or anything else, then the Coast Guard would become involved with that, and they would immediately take action in order to mitigate that.
Mr. Baker?
I just want to thank you for cleaning up the other side of the street on that vacant lot. I don't know what you did or whatever, but I guess that was.
Took a work. We finally found somebody to, take it, manage it and everything else, and actually a couple other lots on the other side of the street have now been sold or taken over by construction companies, and I've already talked to them. I actually went out and I talked to them. One is like for example, is Alvarez Construction, and a real nice guy, and he said he would try and keep everything cut and managed in the front as much as they can.
Yeah, the one I noted was growing in the street about going over it, and I appreciate it.
Finally found somebody.
Any other questions or comments for the deputy?
No, sir.
No? So what, I actually like having you up here. And so I'm curious, do you receive a copy of the regular law enforcement report?
I do not usually print it out, but I do get it because they do the email just like they would send the packet out. And so from now on, in case this would happen again, I can print it out. So
I just think you're a much better speaker than the city manager is. So, if you would you just print that out, and if the guys don't show up, whoever it is that normally presents, would you present for us?
I would be more than happy to do that.
All right, I greatly appreciate it. City Manager Reaper, now that I've given you a hard time, you're up. Thank you, Deputy.
So I'm doing the police report, correct?
Police report.
So I took a look at it, and it looks like we've had a pretty good low streak since June 24 and July 24. We only had one crime reported under the assault category. Year to date, July 2023 year to date, we're at 14 crimes reported. Now 24 year to date, we're at 10. So we're coming down at least compared to last year. There was 5 people arrested in the city in the month of July. There was 1 felony, 2 misdemeanors, and 4 traffic misdemeanors. Deputy activity, there was a total of 663 events, resulting in 750 units responding. Most of those were direct patrols and house checks, followed by traffic. So routine things. And there were 3 crashes reported in Bel Air Beach. And I noticed one of them was at the intersection of Gulf Boulevard and Causeway Boulevard, so I'm interested in more information on what caused that. That's all I got.
All right, since you have the same information we do, I'm not going to ask those questions. Next up is item number 4. I don't believe anyone from the Los Santos Fire and Rescue District is here tonight, so we're just going to move on to item number 5, which is the city attorney's report. Mr. Moore, you're up.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
No report. Any questions for Mr. Moore?
No, sir.
No? All right. Item 6, city manager report. Mr. Reaper.
Thank you, Mayor. Start off at the top of the list. We had a meeting this week with Duke and Utility Consultants of Florida. I've asked them to come to our October meeting, which I believe is going to be the 14th of October. So both UCF and Duke will be present, and I want them to first catch up with the council on where we're at in the project, and then discuss options as far as the placement of the equipment for phase 2, which is North Causeway Boulevard. We've kind of been in a standstill trying to figure that out and request easements, so I think it's a good time to just go over everything and have Duke Energy present the options that are available. And that's all I have for that, so I look forward to the October meeting. The stormwater improvement project, as you can see, since we started doing the surveys and doing the grade stakes, Harbor Contracting has been replacing the curbs on the streets from 14. They've done 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. Just recently finished 19th, 20th, 21st, and now they're back down to 9th Street. So they've done the south side of 9th Street. That leaves us the north side of 9th Street, the south side of 23rd. We have tonight discussion of 22nd Street, which we wanted to add to the project. So that would be all the curbs. At this time, the paving contractor is scheduled to do all the streets in October. So it's going to be a mill resurface for the 2/3 of the streets that are left on the project. Code review services, we did the work session last month. Since then, Mr. Cerna and I got on a conference call with the FDM, Florida Department of Emergency Management Flood Ordinance consultant to discuss just updating our flood code, which is chapter 76. And after Mr. Cerna is done updating what we discussed, then city attorney will prepare it to start doing first readings on the chapters that we're going to change the ordinance. I had a request come in from the outstanding the lien on 103 25th Street, which was the outstanding construction permit that accumulated as of July 15th. It's at a balance of $326,964.63. So I was reached out to asking council to consider a partial lien release for another property, and if it would even be considered, and how much would be required. So what's happening is the owner of the house at 103 25th Street has another property he has on the market. Someone is willing to buy it, but I found out that the lien, the way it works is that they cross link, so he can't sell his other property until we release it off of the lien that's on 103 25th Street. So I just wanted to present that to City Council for consideration if they would do some sort of partial lien release, and if so, if they will consider, then how much we require to release the property. It's 809 Harbor Oak Lane in Clearwater.
That's a lot to dump on us without any warning. I think I'd like to see some numbers on paper that we can take with us and think about it.
Okay.
And maybe bring it back up at either the next meeting or a work session.
Okay.
Are the repetitive charges, like because they didn't respond daily, we taxed them like $150 a day? Is that what
Yes, it was
part of the lien is?
based on the construction trades of the permit. There was daily fines on each closeout to finish each year.
That's the beef of the $300,000?
That's all of it. It was just an ongoing
Okay.
finding of the permit being expired.
Nuisance fines, all right.
I'm curious, there was finally payment on the other home that we did a partial, right?
Yes.
Is there any way to, I'm just thinking out of the box here, but is there any way to provide a partial lien release, but not release the debt?
Yes, so we can do a partial lien release if there's, most especially if there's partial payment. We can say, well, in order to release as to property Y, let's say property X is the property at issue with the lien directly. Property Y will release for X amount, but we're not releasing the remainder. So let's say 100,000 is owed, and you say for 20 grand, and I'm just making up numbers, I'm not making recommendations. Let's say 100,000 is owed, you say for 20,000 we can release property Y, the remaining 80,000 remains due and owed. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Well, that's part of it, and the other side would be, can you release, say, okay, now we have the $80,000 as a continuing lien. The debt is still $100,000, but we don't have a lien.
I see what you're saying, that distinction between the debt and lien. I'm not familiar with that. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that paradigm, but usually what I've seen is you do a release of the lien as to that property, but still don't allow them to close. But at that point, you've got the unjust enrichment element, not unjust enrichment, but like the debt was 100, you've received some remuneration for it, you can't recover a second time for that same amount of the debt. So I want to look at that paradigm. But the more traditional way is we'll take partial payment to release this other, third property that's not the principal concern.
It's like, you never got a mortgage, the note is still good.
Right.
That's my thing.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Anything else, Mr. Riegler?
Yes, I want to jump back. I remember the citizen inquiry about the stormwater valve. So I'm waiting on a flange that fits the pipe at the swale. We had the valve, but originally we were going to have the contractor modify the outfall to fit the valve in. It's a elliptical valve, and I found out through the LawPro, which is the valve company, that they do make a flange that we can use. It's slightly smaller than the elliptical pipe, but what it does is you bolt it in and then you mud around the flange itself instead of modifying the whole of our reinforced concrete pipe. So I expect to have the flange piece in October. Yes, I'm aware of recently with the high tides, there's been a lot of water coming up in the street. One thing we have noticed is even the Palm Drive, the county system, the tidal water was coming out of there about. So we did hear from residents on Palm that said that that's never happened before, and we filed it with the county and made them aware.
What was the underlying issue? I've never seen so many streets flooded at a low tide. I've never seen that before. And I mean, there were probably 8 or 9 streets that were underwater that day.
You're talking about I was recently talking about this week with the high tide we've experienced, but you're talking about a couple weeks ago with the rain events. I would sum that up to just the capacity of the water, the flow. It wasn't getting out as fast as it was coming in, or from the rainfall. I do know that there's a lot of counties, or a lot of cities throughout Pinellas County, especially inland, that experienced 50-year rain events, and it exposed all the weaknesses to the drainage.
See, this looked to me like it was sewage.
There was some sanitary sewer overflow. I did report that. The county is still doing smoke tests. I heard some feedback that they're concerned about the laterals, and that's where the water's coming in. But I also know that the pipe on 18th that we're planning to line is compromised. So that, especially on 18th, where it seems to be the center of where it's spilling over, that may help the problem. At least the water will not get into the ground as quickly by our stormwater pipe.
All right, and then the other question that I have for you is, have you heard anything from the county concerning our traffic pattern and their recommendations?
I received an email. They said that they were continuing to make the same recommendations. I asked, they said they looked into the merge lane, and have done numbers on that, and also some data with the stop bars. But what I did ask them is, they were saying that they weren't tracking any near miss data, but I asked them to provide the data for us, because I thought when I bring it to you, you're going to want to see what they're basing their conclusions off of. But they're still making the same recommendations. And I also asked them to put all those recommendations in writing, along with moving the stop bars. So I'm waiting for that to come out. Representative.
Any other questions for the city manager?
I had a couple more things. iWork, which is the work maintenance software, we started using it this week. It's been going well. The staff's been doing it on their iPad. we're finishing, like putting together the database for the setup for the stormwater management system, which is how we're going to do our inspection and reportings. So we're still troubleshooting that. But actually having the staff start entering their work orders, get used to the system. We're kind of working through the little problems as they come up, but I just wanted to say that we're excited about it. We see it being very beneficial in the future. I've actually been discussing with Deputy Trump that I would like to try to start doing code reports through the software as well, because I think if we can start building the reports that way, I can use the software to run the reports instead of messing with the Excel sheets every month, save time.
See, this is what happens. You say something nice about the deputy, and then he gets an action item.
And then one more thing, the HVAC unit for the office side of the building, it lost a condenser coil, just wear and tear, lost the gas in it. So we're running off of one condenser coil. The HVAC programmer came in and was able to keep it pretty cool still. So we're looking at replacement of the condenser coil. It's about $12,500. That's the lowest number I got out of the 3 quotes. I'm planning to purchase, and then I'll provide council the report on that repair.
All right. Anything else?
That is all.
Mr. Baker.
That storm event that the mayor was talking about with low tide, how many inches of rain did you get that, like, hour and a half, I guess it was?
It was a couple days.
And that one, no, I'm talking about the one, we had a low tide, it was like
Friday around 5 o'clock.
yeah, it's whenever it happened, yeah. And-
Oh, the last
Yeah.
one, right? I think the last time I looked at like just the weather load, precipitation trucks was like 4 or 5 inches.
Yeah, just in that hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, and about 8 years ago, people remember we had almost about the same time, it was at high tide. And it was only an hour, but it flooded. Didn't come in the houses, thank God, but it was bad. But like you said, this was at probably the lowest part of the tide, so almost a negative tide. It just came down buckets. Not good.
All right. Any other questions or comments for the city manager?
One comment, and that is regarding the code review process. Attorney Moore has given me a lot of really good information. I have reviewed that and reviewed the ordinance regarding signs, and I withdraw any objection. So we can move ahead.
I'm sorry. Say that one more
I
time.
withdraw the objection to the signs ordinance
Oh,
as it was
okay.
proposed.
All right. That's good to know. Thank you. Did you have anything, Mr. Roberts? No? All right. Does that conclude your report, Mr. Reaper?
Yes, it does.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
very much. All right, now we are up to the city clerk report. Right?
Captain Liner and Chief Davidson were provided information on tonight's meeting and the change of the dates. Unfortunately, they just did not show up this evening.
All of the municipalities' schedules work with each other, and all it takes is throwing one off, and then they can't attend, so I understand.
Additionally, Dominic DeCosimo, who is on the agenda this evening for potential appointment to the Planning and Zoning Board, he was also available on September 4th, but has since left the country and is unavailable this evening.
Okay, all right. Anything else?
That's all.
All right, any questions or comments for the city clerk? All right, thank you very much, Ms. Rose. All right, now we are up to the consent agenda, items 8 through 10. This is for approval of the August 5th, 2024 City Council meeting minutes, approval of the August 19th, 2024 City Council work session minutes, and approval of the August 28th, 2024 City Council work session minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as submitted and proposed.
Motion made by Frank Baker. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Lloyd Roberts. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have one comment, and that is regarding the August 19 minutes, the very last 2 lines of the page 1. It refers to access insurance, and the actual term is excess, E-X-C-E-S-S.
Noted. Thank you.
That whole paragraph, there's more on the next page.
That was it.
That's it.
Is that enough that we can just make the correction and publish it?
Commissioners can be addressed that way, yes.
Okay, all right, great. So in that case, is that an all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consent agenda passes. Now we're on to the regular agenda, item number 11. This is for consideration of appointment to the Planning and Zoning Board. We have one candidate, but he's not here. It's Mr. Dominic DeCosmo. Do we want to move forward with this appointment, or would we prefer to put it off until the next meeting, which is October the 14th now? 14th. Yes, council?
It does, I'm fine either way.
General consensus here? Well, let's just call for a motion. Before that, we need to go to the citizens for comments. Would anyone like to comment on this item? Nope, citizen comments are now closed. Would anyone like to make a motion on appointing Mr. DeCosmo to Planning and Zoning Board?
Is there anybody here that is on that board or knows this gentleman?
I spoke with him back and forth a couple times about the responsibility, and we went over the terms and what the board does. He's interested in serving on the board. If he does, he's interested in being the chair of the board. Right now, we have one new member that was appointed. We have not had a meeting yet, so it would be voted on within the board, but he wants to take an active leadership role. He, through me, in discussion, has taken a lot of consideration to volunteering.
I think because planning and zoning is, well, first off, we've asked for a motion. Is anyone making a motion on this or not? Because if we don't make a motion, we don't have to discuss it.
I'll make a motion
All right, motion made by Frank Baker.
What is the motion?
to discuss Mr. Sengo and
Make a motion to discuss it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, now we can talk about it. So what I was going to say is that the Planning and Zoning Board and Board of Adjustments are very important. They're the two boards that mean the most to this community. I think that especially someone that's wanting to make its way to being the chair of this particular board, I would like to actually see his face and give him the opportunity to address the council, share his desire, why he wants to be on planning and zoning, and then we vote him in the proper way. Any other discussion at this time?
I agree. We thank the applicant for his volunteerism, but I think we owe some due diligence.
Anyone else? Yes?
Finally, my only question, Renee, is you had mentioned he was going to be here on the 4th, but now he's out of the country. Do you know when he's coming back?
I do not have that information.
Okay.
I think it's roughly 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, from what I understand, from his wife who volunteers Parks and Rec.
So there's a good chance he would be back before our October meeting.
Could be close, but hopefully, yes.
Okay.
This is a roll call vote. Any other comments? No?
Just for consideration, I believe Attorney Moore can elaborate, but I believe for our land development code, we need to have any of the ordinances we're proposing reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Yes, that's, as a power and duty of that board, that's accurate. Mr. Mayor, procedurally, I just want to be clear, the motion made was to discuss, so there's no motion that would have a roll call vote as I understand it. It sounds like the board is moving towards tabling this issue rather than substantively.
That's what I was about to call it. Would someone like
I
to?
just have one question. The city manager interviewed this guy. Is he your work candidate?
Yes, but I understand the mayor's.
You know, and I agree 100% with the mayor that we have to put people on the board without being board. I agree that planning and zoning board is very strenuous. Yep, I wouldn't want to lose that. So,
We can, right now, that we're just discussing, and there's a motion on the table just to move forward with this. So we can move forward, or we can table it, and leave it up to the council.
I motion to move forward.
All right, in that case, let's go ahead and we have to vote. We can do this with a voice vote just to move forward. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. This is not putting in the seat. Now we actually have to, we need another motion to appoint Mr. DeCosimo to the Planning and Zoning Board.
I make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, in that case, Renee, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Elliott,
No.
and Mayor Gaddis.
No. All right, so the motion dies, and we'll try it again whenever he gets back. All right, item 12, consideration of appointment as an alternate to the Board of Adjustments. We have one candidate, Mr. Douglas Prescott. Is Mr. Prescott here? Hey, there he is. Would you like to come up to the podium and introduce yourself to the council?
I am Doug Prescott Sr. I live on 100 Lincoln Drive. I live in Bel Air Beach now since, I think, 71 or 70. So good little run. Been on Lincoln Drive from 1997. I grew up on 18th Street. Built the first home in Morgan and Hibiscus. And then on 97, I took my house down and built it back in 2002.
Mr. Prescott, have you served on anything for the city before?
I've served on about everything yet. I did the Board of Adjustments, which I really enjoyed. I had to resign from that when I moved away to build my house. I had to move off Bell Beach for about 6 months. I stayed as long as I could. There was nothing available to rent. On my second home, I had to rent. It took 2 years to build the house. So I served as city council. I served vice mayor, deputy presiding officer. I was appointed after I got done doing that we just changed the form of government, and I was involved with that heavily. And they appointed me to interview the potential first-time city manager for Red Oak Beach. And the person I appointed, thought would be a good choice, was Nancy McCullum, who became our first.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. Prescott?
I think he's well versed. Let's vote before he changes his mind.
All right, before we do that, we're going to, thank you, Mr. Prescott. Before we do that, we're going to go to the citizens for comments. Would anyone like to comment on the possible appointment of Mr. Douglas Prescott for an alternate member of the Board of Adjustments? Nope. All right, citizen comments are closed. Council, I'm going to need a motion to appoint Mr. Prescott as an alternate to the Board of Adjustments. Motion. Motion is made by Frank Baker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Lloyd Roberts. Mr. Baker, you have the floor.
Like I said, I believe he's well versed, probably more than a lot of us. We should grab him. Not let him go.
I agree. Any other comments? Council? No? All right. This is to appoint Douglas Prescott as an alternate to the Board of Adjustments. Renee, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Elliott,
Yes.
Mayor Gaddis.
Yes. And so, Mr. Prescott, you are a glutton for punishment, and welcome back. Thank you for serving our community. All right. Now we are on to item number 13. This is for consideration of a correction to Resolution 2024-04. Mr. Mora, you have the floor.
Thank you. This is Resolution 2024-04, resolution of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, approving the consumer price allocated increase to the city solid waste collection and disposal rates, making related findings, and providing for severability and effective date. So the first and final reading of resolution number 2024-04 by title only. Substantively, I'll allow the manager to speak to this. You've already adopted a resolution substantially similar to this. Subsequent to its adoption, administration realized there was a scrivener's error having to deal with the percentages or the transmitted or translated actual rate flowing from those percentages. So this is an attempt to resolve that. Some of you have heard me joke in the past that we don't make mistakes, we make amendments, and this is a reflection of that process.
In this case, a 50-cent amendment.
I believe so, and I refer to the manager to speak to that substantively.
Okay, we expect to see only 50 cents on the bill.
So there's 3 rates, and each rate was meant to increase by $2.50. And that's bi-monthly. And in the transition, I had to correct on my calculation sheet, but the resolution itself was short 50 cents on the multifamily can rate. It was to increase from $48, or sorry, from $53 to $55.50. So just a correction so that the resolution states the proper rate, and then I can submit it to Pinellas County Utilities.
Thank you, Mr. Riefler. All right, let's go to the citizens for comments on this one. This is for consideration of the corrected resolution 2024-04. Would anyone like to speak? All right, citizen comments are now closed. Council, I'm going to need a motion to approve the correction to resolution 2024-04 where the multifamily can price is $55.50. Do I have a motion? Motion made by Frank Baker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Lloyd Roberts. Mr. Baker, you have the floor.
I feel we have no other alternative, but I don't like my trash, and I don't like the neighbor's trash either, so. I think it speaks for itself. I don't know what to do with it.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Would anyone else like to speak on this topic? No? All right. In that case, Renee, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bankert.
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Yes.
Councilmember Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Gaddis.
Yes. And so the resolution correction passes unanimously. Now we're on to item number 14, consideration of an amendment to the interlocal agreement for the creation of the Pinellas County Metropolitan Planning Organization. Mr. Riefler, you have the floor.
Yes, this is sent to us as an interlocal agreement from Port Pinellas. And it's an amendment to the original interlocal agreement that each city involved, they're asking for a signature and approval. The highlights of the changes to the agreement as they're updating the seats. There was previously 13 members, and they're proposing to increase to 19 members, and that is based on the 2020 U.S. Census report of population. The seats being added are 2 seats to the city of St. Petersburg, a seat to the city of Clearwater, a seat to the city of Tarpon Springs, the county commission increasing 1 seat to maintain a percentage of the total seats. I believe it was 20%, and then they're splitting the inland north and inland south to allow for shorter rotation for the terms. So an overview for the city of Bel Air Beach. We're still included with other beach cities as holding 1 seat. So if you look at what they're proposing, going from 13 members to 19 members, we still have the 1 seat, so for Bel Air Beach, it would be less of a share of the voting rights. And that's pretty much summarizing it.
And did you speak with Mr. Mora about what happens if we don't sign this?
Yes, I spoke to him today, and he's prepared to answer.
Well, I think I'm overselling what I'm prepared to do. No, I don't know. I don't know the precise cascade of what would happen if you did not sign on to this. My strong advice would be that you do sign on to it, as it is a matter of federal and statutory compliance. I don't know what funds or projects could potentially be withheld or impacted by not participating in the MPO. It is a metropolitan planning organization, and as the resolution and interlocal agreement set forth, it's every other community in some form within Pinellas County is a part of it. I'm not sure were you to be the outlier in that process, what precisely would flow from it? As I did receive the inquiry, I received it late in the afternoon, and I, up until this point, understood this to be, I wouldn't quite say a housekeeping matter, but something that's typically done as part of general compliance and upkeep.
Right, and what I didn't really understand is why so many beach communities are basically our voice and our vote is being dumbed down by adding more seats to the county commission, the city of Clearwater, and the city of St. Pete.
I think that's, in as much as you look at the resolution and its material, that's reflected in the population trends in those jurisdictions where we've lost, for any multiplicity of reasons, from housing crises to short-term rentals to insert reason here, you've lost your voter base, your population base as compared to some of those larger mainland communities. And I think, and as the seats are apportioned based on your population trends, that's how that dynamic is playing out. That's based on how they've been structured.
And it's probably because we're fully built out versus the other municipalities are able to build up.
As you see, if you're using the 2020 census, which this is, and you go 5 years, there's, as you aptly noted, if you're in the city of Tarpon Springs in the last 5 years, you've seen some real development, real growth, and developments. They're not building any more beaches, and so there's only so much you folks can do, and then you factor in again the population trends that you're seeing and where people are setting their residences, their domiciles, and I think those two factors go together and give you the result you have here. But again, as this is how funds and resources are allocated for purposes of planning, and we are members of Port Pinellas, right? This sort of flows from that. This is an outgrowth of that planning process.
Right. Well, let's go to the citizens for comments. Would anyone like to speak on this topic? Yes.
John Hansick, 22nd Street. If I'm following the conversation and this proposal, it's the larger cities that want more seats. And to your point, Mr. Mayor, like you stated, it seems like we're losing our voice. We're being dumbed down, so to speak.
I appreciate you coming up and speaking. After you're finished, I will continue this conversation.
Okay, but the big guys keep winning, and I don't know that we can beat them, even if all the small communities along, the beaches join together. So I'm not for it personally because I don't want to see our voices diminished. They've got enough voice as it is. That's my comment to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hansick. Would anyone else like to speak? All right, Council, I'm going to need a motion to approve the amendment to the interlocal agreement for the creation of the Pinellas County Metropolitan Planning Organization. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Lloyd Roberts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Shaw Elliott. All right, so Mr. Roberts, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't really see any benefit of saying that we're not going to participate. They are still going to exist. We're just going to have no vote at that point. We're not even going to be part of the organization. So that's why I'm in favor of at least maintaining and keeping that seat, even though from a percentage standpoint, by the organization adding additional seats at other cities, from a percentage standpoint, our voice is lessened, but at least we have one.
And this reminds me of a situation we had a few years ago whenever they were proposing raising the gas tax. It was, you remember that, Mr. Reaper?
A little.
Yeah, okay, so they sent us pretty much an interlocal agreement similar to this, and it was us buying into the gas tax increase. I don't think it actually happened, but they twisted our arms because if we didn't sign it, we wouldn't get the benefit. Even though ours is just a tiny little bit, we wouldn't get any money at all. And so we went ahead and signed the thing, even though we didn't really agree with raising our gas taxes. This is just another situation where I think you're right, Mr. Mora, if we don't sign it, then there's probably some tiny benefit that we won't get. But also, we won't be included at all in the voice. The biggest problem I'm having with this whole, the red flag that I saw was that it was the Big C and it included the city of Clearwater. What they did was they removed the city of Clearwater, awarded them 2 seats, and now we're even less, we have less of a voice because it's all of the Big C except for the city of Clearwater. They're exempt for it, and they got 2 points to go along with it. So they went from you're lumped in with all the beaches to now you're a big powerhouse and you've got extra votes. We can all see what's going on, but I don't know if we really have a choice on this. Comments, Mr. Baker?
Are these paid seats? I can't find a salary in this proposal.
I'd have to do further research, but I'm not aware of them being paid seats at commission, just commission like the PSTA and other seats that it's just like the mayor serving the Big C. It's interlocal.
So you believe you're not paid?
It's my understanding they are not paid seats. They are made up of officials who serve in other communities.
And I have to agree with Mr. Roberts. I'd rather have some type of voice in there than no voice at all.
Well, and that's why I asked the question. So if there's not any other comments, let's just go ahead and do a voice vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Reluctantly. Any opposed? All right, the amendment to the interlocal agreement passes. All right, we're on to item number 15. This is consideration of authorization of the city manager to execute a contract for law enforcement services with the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office for fiscal year 2024-2025. Mr. Reaper, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is to authorize this year's contract with Pinellas County Sheriff's Office for law enforcement services as well as the as-needed code enforcement services. Total contract with a discount that was recalculated this year for Bel Air Shore portion of the deputy will be $608,556, and the as-needed rate for the code enforcement officer is going to be $59 per hour. We are continuing to schedule them 3 days a week, 4-hour shifts, and that seems to be working well. At the request of City Council, I did explore contractual services with the Largo Police Department. They gave me some numbers and calculations, and from what they're looking at in their budget, they feel that the expense is significantly more than what the sheriff provides. So I just wanted to put that information in there for you to compare. So I recommend that we renew our contract with the Pinellas County Sheriff Department.
Okay, great. I'm going to have to go to the citizens for comments, and then we'll come back to the council. If anyone would like to comment on this? Yes, Mr. Hanson.
John Hanson, 22nd Street. I hope nobody takes this wrong. I appreciate what the Sheriff's Department does. Really do. You know, they go in harm's way every day. Been there, done that. My point is, I have watched since I've been a citizen in this community since 2015, when we've contracted with the sheriff. the increase, percentage-wise, is typically more than the CPI. And if my math serves me correctly, this increase is somewhere in the vicinity of 6% over last year. And we don't even have a CPI number for COLA for Social Security until a month from now. I really wonder what it is besides everything that's in the contract, because I didn't read the contract. They're not doing more. We're still getting the same amount of service. What I would like to see as a citizen is more traffic enforcement. I've been up here multiple times. The speeding on side streets, the speeding on Gulf Boulevard, the turn lane being used as passing lane. Passing on a bridge. Now, if the sheriff in Bel Air Bluffs can sit down there in different places, why can't our deputy assigned spend more time, if you will, patrolling, as well as monitoring the main thoroughfare? And again, folks, those of you know, from my front yard, I got a perfect view of Gulf Boulevard. I can see it. All I'm saying is, I think that the COLA, the increase, is excessive. But we're not getting more. I understand certain things cost more. But 6% is pretty steep. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Other comments from citizens? Citizen comments are now closed. Council, I need a motion to authorize the city manager to execute a contract for law enforcement services with the sheriff department. Motion. Motion made by Frank Baker.
Second.
Second by Shaw Elliott. Mr. Baker, you have the floor.
Well, the citizen made some great comments about the 6%. The mayor went to the city of Largo to try to reduce our costs and came back with 25. So it's another thing we can't do without. And I agree, there should be more enforcement, you know, and more got forward. Going to beach cleanup on Saturday morning at 7:45. I'm doing 35 to 19th Street from the causeway, and a guy passes me. You know, and like I said, you see it all the time. So I think we should pass this. I think it's, you know, they are our deputies in the sheriff's department. They do a great job. Maybe we just have to get them to do some more enforcement for us.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Any other comments? Yes, Mr. Roberts.
Just a question for a city manager or anybody. So if somebody receives a ticket for speeding or reckless driving, whatever the case may be, do we get any of that revenue?
For traffic citations, I don't believe we do. For a local ordinance violation, we get a percentage after administration fees through the clerk. So traffic citations, I'll double check, but I don't ever see traffic citations on our payments.
Because I agree with Mr. Itching, where, you know, I take a right on the Gulf Boulevard after I cross the bridge, and I wouldn't say many, but more than I'd like to see, where people are like right on my tail and I'm going 35, and they swing over to the left and use the bi-directional lane to pass, which is just stupid. First of all, they're definitely speeding, and secondly, there may be somebody coming the other direction that actually wants to use that lane and make a left-hand turn, and that could turn out really badly for everybody. So it's bizarre. I realize we only typically have one car, one deputy at a time. They can't see everything all the time, but I'm always cheering for that deputy to be there when that happens, so I can stop and comment to them.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Any other comments? Nope. All right, I'm going to add that whenever we got notice of this, I actually wrote a letter to the Sheriff's Department asking for bullet points that I could share with the council. I've done that once before, but I don't know if you were here or not. And basically, he attributed it to rise in insurance rates, rise in salaries, and the cost of fuel, and just inflation in general. It was I have left messages for Sheriff Gualtieri before and not gotten a call for a day or two. As soon as I sent that letter, I would say within the hour, he called me personally on my cell phone and wanted to assure me that he wasn't picking on Bel Air Beach. Everyone in the county got the same increase. So whatever you were doing before, you got the 6-point-whatever% increase. And it's just the cost of doing business. As City Manager Riefler stated, he did contact Largo, and they can't compete. So I would love to have an alternative just so that we have something, so we can choose, sort of like we do with our garbage service, but that's just not the case. And if you look at most of the municipalities, the smaller ones like us, they all are doing the same thing. So we're not alone. Nobody's happy with the increases, but I am happy with, for the most part, the sheriff's services. I too would like to see more citations written so people, the word gets out that Bel Air Beach is not the place to do those things, but you can't be everywhere all the time. So, that being said, we have a motion on the floor. Is everyone ready to vote? All right, Renee, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bankert.
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Yes.
Councilmember Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Gaddis.
Yes, sir. So it passes unanimously. Mr. Reaper, you are authorized to proceed. And thank you for checking into alternatives. Thank you. All right, now we are on to item 16. It gets better. The consideration for accepting the Brown & Brown insurance proposal and authorizing a purchase order. To back that up, Mr. Reaper, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. So in our August work session, we had a presentation of a proposal by Brown & Brown. The proposal is, as we went over it, and there's a comparison to our current Florida Municipal Insurance Trust policy. It includes some more coverage in different areas of the insurance. And it is at a premium that's a little less than what was proposed by the Florida Municipal Insurance Trust this year by about $9,000. This is something we discussed starting 2 years ago, to my knowledge, where I made contact with Brown & Brown, which is another major known insurance group that does local cities. And the first year, he took our numbers and just wasn't able to compete. So I reported back, but he was interested in following up for this upcoming budget cycle. And we worked through the numbers, and he came back with this proposal. And based on the feedback he gave me, especially our workers' comp claims in our history, we are showing a positive of less workers' comp claims. In his business, that calculated that we're under the average for municipalities throughout the state, and that it should have affected our rates to come down some. But we did not see that with FMIT. So in the past 2 years, our total premium has increased by about 58%. I mean, there was the big jump because of the property insurance and some of the storms that hit, but it continues to increase. And Brown & Brown has proven to be just as good as the Florida Municipal Insurance Trust, and they have a lot of similar programs. When I followed up with the cities in the area that use Brown & Brown, the positive feedback was all positive, but it was centered around their customer service and the ability of whenever they needed them, the service continued to excel. I think that's very important, especially for a small city like us, and we need to take care of things when they happen. So there were some questions submitted from council members that the insurance agent, Kyle Stokel, was able to answer from his knowledge, and I've included that email as part of this memo. And it is our recommendation that we approve a purchase order for the $76,496 to pay the full year premium for the upcoming fiscal year.
Thank you, Mr. Reaper. Before we go to the council, let's go to the citizens. Would anyone like to speak on this topic? Citizen comments are now closed. Council, I'm going to need a motion to accept the proposal from Brown & Brown and to authorize the city manager to execute a purchase order. Motion is made by Frank Baker. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm going to give that one to Shaw Elliott. Mr. Baker, do you have the floor?
I really appreciate the due diligence in this, Kyle, going out and looking for somebody else. I remember when we brought in our current underwriter a year ago about the increases, she just kept saying, well, everything's going. This guy went through everything with us. It's a cost savings to the city. It's a reputable company. I think it registered like 3.5 out of 4 stars. Good job.
Any other comments or questions?
No, I just that everything Member Banker said is right on target. You know, we discussed this in detail. I was very impressed with the representative from Brown & Brown at our workshop. We asked him a lot of questions while he was here. His presentation was very thorough, easy to understand, and anytime we can save money, that's a good thing.
And I contacted a friend of the family who is very knowledgeable of all things insurance, and she actually, it looked to me like she spent about an hour preparing questions. They weren't directed towards the insurance company, they were actually directed towards us. And we considered this, and we looked at that. It was very impressive, and I greatly appreciate her taking the time to do that. Her name is Crystal Callahan, or was Callahan. But I passed it off to the city manager, and he just passed it sight unseen right off to the insurance agent, and he came right back with all the answers. And did you share that with the council?
In this agenda.
Okay, all right, great. Yeah, I was very impressed, and I think that we're going to be very happy with the new company. Are there any other comments? No? All right. This is a big ticket item, so Renee, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Councilmember Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Gaddis?
Yes. So, Mr. Reaper, you are authorized to proceed, and good job. Good find. Thank you. All right, up next, item 17, consideration of B23-01 Drainage and Street Improvement Project Change Order number 002 for curb replacement on 22nd Street. Mr. Reaper, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. So this would be the second change order proposed by Harbor Contracting, who is the current contractor for our street drainage improvement project. And they took the job of replacing the curbs on 22nd Street. And this includes from the west of the bridge all the way to Gulf Boulevard. They used the contract line item pricing from the bid, and this is the change order that is including all the elements of the work. For cost savings, and because the asphalt for 22nd Street was resurfaced in 2020, they proposed removing the 1 foot next to where the curb will be removed, so 1 foot of asphalt into the center of the street to give them room to form up the new curb. And then afterwards, having 1 foot of space allows them to get a compactor in to compact the base and then put asphalt back down, but it will not be a clean resurfacing. It'll be a strip of asphalt patch, which will look different than the rest of the road. I included a picture of Louisa Drive before we paved it, which had a similar work done. It might have been a little wider than a foot in that case, but it gives you an idea of what the street would look like. The only items where you look at the change order that were not on the actual bid is the survey, which it would be the surveying for the streets, and that was the actual first change order, was the survey layout of every other street that was originally part of the project. So that's what that item is. And then the 1 foot asphalt patch. So since this is something that we did not do in any other part of the project, it is a price that they're giving us that is not contractual. So it was asked what the cost difference would be if we were to resurface the entire 22nd Street asphalt in those areas. And it would be a cost increase of $65,000, 480. So $65,480. So I proposed doing the asphalt patch because of just the fact how new the asphalt was. So I'll leave it at that. That is the information for council consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Reefer. Before we discuss this, let's go to the citizens for comments. If you would like to speak on this subject, I kind of assumed you would. Come on up, Mr. Hanson.
John Hanson, 22nd Street. I've been anxiously waiting for this, obviously. All right, so just a question. So if I understand the change, the contractor wants to go from the street side of the curb out to the street 1 foot so he can put forms in. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. So he'll remove the curb and then he'll saw cut the asphalt 1 foot towards the center of the street right from that curb for room.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to be sure. The other comment I want to make, I've been watching this contractor along the way north of the causeway. And frankly, I'm quite disappointed in the fill that they have provided after the curbing is put in. It looks like just plain old fill that you would use to fill level property. I mean, you know, they dig this up on the backside of people's property and they put in this stone, sand. I've seen stuff as big as golf balls laying in those piles on the street. I guess that was part of the contract. But I'll talk with you about what I'm going to do when they get done with the curb in front of my place, because they're not putting it in my yard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Council, I need a motion to accept project change order 002 for curb replacement on 22nd Street.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Roberts. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Shaw Elliott. Mr. Roberts, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we discussed this at one of the workshops. I do have a couple of questions about the actual invoice that was provided, but I think it's important that we do that based on the current status of those gutters on 22nd Street. I think we should go ahead and move forward with that. But I do have a question about, just in my own mind here, Kyle, so the no pay items for the survey layout and the 1 foot asphalt patch. They're not charging us for that? Is that what they're saying?
No, that is saying that this is not a contract price, so this is a price that they're proposing based on the job, but it is not tied to the contract that currently exists.
Okay, okay. All right. And then the items above that, if needed items, for example, $30,000 for replacing the pavers. We may or may not use all of that or any of it.
I would expect less based on the other streets.
Okay. All right.
Anything else?
Yes, sir.
Council? Comments, questions? No? All right, well, in that case, let's take to a vote. Renee, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Elliott,
Yes.
Mayor Gaddis.
Yes. So it passes unanimously. Mr. Riegler, you are authorized to proceed.
Thank you.
All right, we are on to number 18, unfinished business. Council, any unfinished business? Yes.
At the August council meeting, during council comments, it was put on the record that the city is being credited $48,000 for the past 2 years from the sheriff's department regarding Ballard Beach overpayment and Ballard Shores underpaying for deputy services. By bringing this up under unfinished business, it was also said on the record by a council member during the council comments, we may not have been allocated the true amount fully owed to the city of Ballard Beach. I went off on that comment, which I do apologize tonight, although there is no mechanism to review any council comments once council comments are concluded by a council member. I do want to say tonight, I do agree with that council member's comment that a true amount to be collected may not have been fully achieved. For reasons I sought repayment solely from the sheriff's department since size of territory for the services was changed 2 years ago. As noted on the record during budget talks, I further noted during that work session that a figure of $100 grand may be what is truly owed to the citizens of Ballard Beach. While the mayor at the July work session placed me in charge to go after these funds, the mayor also noted that he may have made a mistake in directing a council member to perform such an assignment during the council comments of August. While I somewhat agree with the mayor's position, while the mayor does not have the authority to delegate a council member an assignment, in most cases, I do want to note 2 factors of the mayor's designation of placing me in charge of recollection of these funds. Under section 2.045 of our charter, the mayor shall conduct meetings under Robert's rules. There are 11 basic rules of duties under the chair under Robert's rules, and one of them is to expedite business. Of course, this does not give the chair the unfettered right of just assigning council members. But if you look at the code, the Florida Code section 166.021B, the governing body of a municipality may expend public funds to attract and retain business enterprises and use of public funds for the achievement of such economic development goals constitutes a public purpose. The purpose of this chapter, which confers powers and duties of the governing body of a municipality, including any powers not specifically prohibited by law, which can be exercised by the governing body of a municipality, shall be liberally construed in order to effectively carry out the purpose of this section. So I cannot believe the mayor acted improperly in placing me in charge of retrieving the funds. Furthermore, as a resident and taxpayer and the one who raised this issue this year and last year during budget talks, I would have pursued this matter regardless if the mayor placed me in charge or not, because it is my right and duty as a citizen to question any part of my government. Now, going back to the July budget meeting, a councilperson before the conclusion of the budget talks brought up the sheriff's costs. He noted that the Ballard Beach portion was incorrect as we were overpaying and Ballard Shores was underpaying. And he further noted it doesn't sound like the sheriff's department is going to say we should have paid less money. And these are all quotes of the record. I then questioned our attorney in regards to our councilperson's position, and the question to our attorney was, who owes us? Our attorney then noted, if it is the council's desire that he would like to work with the city manager on this to see if any funds could be collected, but clearly noted, any such pursuit would be based on time and money to pursue this and would it be cost effective. The reason I bring this up, no council member made a motion to have our attorney work with the city manager on this. Further noted should be that no council member made any objection of the mayor placing me in charge of recollection of the funds. Surely I wasn't going to object since I was thrilled at being given the task. The record will further show that this matter of the budget then was closed. Next day, I asked for the sheriff's contract, and a day and a half later, we were granted a $48,000 credit from the sheriff's department. Now, while I was looking over the sheriff's contract, I want to note number 12 of the agreement. Tonight it was changed to 13 regarding fines. It says, all fines or other monetary fees or penalties rendered in any court as a result of charges made by the sheriff for offenses occurring within the city shall be distributed as provided by general law and the rules of the court. To the point of the matter, the only parking lots found in the town of Bel Air Shores are the 3 lots, 6th, 12th, and 19th Street, given to the landowners. So noted beneficiaries east of Goth Boulevard, which is Bel Air Beach. I further want to note, for decades, any funds collected on those beneficiary lots went to the Bel Air Beach, which used those funds for maintenance of the lots. It was only a few years ago Bel Air Shores arbitrarily took away the fines from the residents of Bel Air Beach, which was a valuable resource in maintaining these lots. And to note, there is no provision in the contract that provides a path of fines to be collected by the town of Bel Air Shores. Therefore, I am making a motion because I am in full agreement with the councilman's comments of August that a true figure is still owed to the city of Bel Air Beach. Therefore, my motion is to have our attorney and city manager address going after Bel Air Shores for the past underpayment of the use of the deputy so noted in the sheriff's contract for the years 2020 and 2021, along with reimbursement of any and all fines collected in so noted lots 21, 43, and 66 found under the definition of the tax partial legal description of Bel Air Beach. We'll have a second. That'll be a second.
But that was a motion?
Motion to go out, motion as in July, is to have the attorney and the city manager go after the true collection of money owed back to people of Bel Air Beach.
Second.
You made the motion. Discussion.
I already discussed it.
Comments?
Certainly, a true-up would be appropriate to understand whether the correct amount was collected. So I don't have any objection to moving forward with that.
Can you speak into the microphone, please, Councilmember?
I think a true-up would be appropriate, rather than, and I don't know whether the chief one or not, but an explanation of how the amount was calculated would be fine.
Is that what the motion is for?
Well, my motion is to go after Bel Air Shores because the sheriff clearly said that they were reimbursing us when we did the geographical changes of size. So we did collect $48,000 from the sheriff's department. But from 2020 to 2021, Bel Air Shores did 2 things. They took away our fining of the vehicles unauthorized parking in those lots, and they used excessive deputy services. The sheriff's department is reimbursing us, and I believe in full.
You're wanting to proceed against Bel Air Shore.
As the council person noted in the budget talks in July, that he didn't believe that we were going to collect anything from the sheriff's department. That the truth, and I agree with him wholeheartedly that the other money should be coming from Bel Air Shores because they abused the time a lot for the sheriff's or contractor. Plus, number 12 of the contract doesn't give them the right to collect the funds. They've been collecting.
That's right. I just wanted to comment a couple of things. First of all, I believe that Member Banford's heart was in the right place when he proceeded after our workshop to contact the sheriff's department. What I had commented on at the, I guess, most recent meeting that we had, and I appreciate Member Banker's, I guess, apology for how he reacted. I was just referring to, in the workshop that we had, the minutes showed that at some point after the mayor had agreed to have Member Banker move forward in discussions with the contract with the sheriff's department, it then said after that that the city manager would meet with Mr. Mora to put together and look at things to make sure we went forward properly, and then they would get back with council and let us know what their findings were. So that's the reference I made at that particular meeting, that didn't take place because there was no time for that to occur, because Member Banker had contacted the sheriff's department because he wanted to try to help the city. So I believe that. He just did it by doing that. The city didn't have the opportunity for the mayor and Mr. Mora to get together and delve into it deeper to find out what options were available to us, so that we might have increased the amount of money we would have gotten back from the sheriff's department. That's when I made that statement.
But for the record, there was never a motion to go forward to have the city manager and the city attorney to look into this, which would have been needed. Because the city attorney, as noted, and it's on the record, it was the council's desire.
Well, it was a workshop, right?
It was a workshop, but there was no directive from council to have him go after.
I don't know that we need the formality of a motion for that. I mean, it's certainly within his responsibilities as city manager to try to pursue any collections or investigate.
He made the recommendation, but I'm saying there's no councilman person that said, I agree with that. You just can't, the city attorney, and correct me if I'm wrong, just can't on his own accord say, okay, I'm going to look into this matter, which isn't part of his retainer.
The city manager can certainly bring him in on anything.
Sure, he can, of council's desire. That's what the charter says.
So I'm wondering if this is more of an accounting issue before it becomes a legal issue, because I would like to see on paper exactly why you feel that another community that just so happens to be writing on the same contract that we are, they owe us money.
Well, like I said, in number 12 of the contract, which is now number 13 of the past 4 years, fines are supposed to be collected by the city. It doesn't say anything about the town. Bel-Air Shores has no park facilities except for our lots that are leased to the landowners of Bel-Air Beach. Arbitrarily, they just took on their own accord and says, okay, we're now going to bring tickets, and we're going to tell the deputy he's not allowed to bring tickets for Bel-Air Beach anymore. We used to collect those revenues, as the city manager said. We did get that revenue from city or citation ordinances violations. What I'm saying is, for years, there used to be the assumption of 1 hour a day was allocated to Bel-Air Shores for deputy enforcement. Ever since they took over writing tickets, it's been well over an hour. It's been 2, maybe 3, 4 hours a day. So I'm saying for 2020 and 2021, they owe us probably about $24,000 a year, like the sheriff said, why they gave us $48,000. Remember, they have no problems sending us a bill for $24,000 for legal expenses. I think we should do the same for them. Clearly, they abuse the system. Clearly, they are continuing to abuse the system.
Any other discussion on this topic before we take it before a vote?
It seems like this could be dealt with informally.
Can you please speak to the microphone?
I'm so sorry, I'm looking at everybody. It seems as though this could be dealt with informally. I certainly support if we feel that we're owed money, if we feel that someone is inappropriately collecting fines when we should be the ones that are collecting it. You know, I'm happy to look into that. I think that can be done on an informal basis. And then come back with findings.
Well, that's what my motion is about, to have the city manager and the city attorney look into this.
That's not the way you stated it, though. You said go after.
It says, here's my motion. There is to have our attorney and city manager address going after Bel Shores for past underpayment of the use of the deputy so noted in the sheriff contract for years 2020 and 2021, along with reimbursement of any and all fines collected in so noted lots 21, 43, and 66 found under the definition of tax parcel legal description of Bel Air Beach.
Councilmember, I think my perception of the division in the discussion, it may be semantics, but as phrased, your motion opens with go after, which I think presumes the result that there's something to pursue, and I think some of the discussion of your other council members, and again, this is your guys' discussion to have, and it seems like you're talking past each other a little bit. I think Member Baker, what they're hearing and go after is sort of presuming the result of and action shall be taken, whereas some of your fellow council members are expressing can we investigate and then determine whether a go after is the appropriate action. I think that's what I'm hearing different members say, but again, it's your discussion to resolve.
I can modify it by saying to address Bel Air Shores for past underpayment of the use of the deputies.
Well, the motion's already been seconded. It's on the floor right now. Any other comments, questions? Do we want to vote on this now? Ready to vote? Sir?
And just because somebody seconds something doesn't mean they're in favor. I just wanted to discuss it.
Yeah, right quick. We'll go to the citizen for comments and then we'll take a vote. Anyone like to speak on this topic? Nope. Citizen comments are now closed. Renee, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts?
No.
Councilmember Elliott?
No.
And Mayor Gabus.
No. So the motion dies. All right, more unfinished business. Any council? Anyone?
I have something that I'm not quite sure procedurally how this is done, but I can suggest at least an item for a work session, and that is to review again the issue of filling an additional seat on the council. I think all of us here completely support a democratic process. We support independence and free thought and everybody having their particular view. But we are in a position that one vote from any of us can defeat a measure. And I'd like that we reconsider rebuilding the council to a 5-member board.
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to address it anyway. Basically, we're having problems reaching a quorum. We've had this meeting is 2 weeks overdue. The council meeting next month will be a week late from when it's supposed to be. I agree with Councilmember Elliott that we should consider adding a 5th council member. But before I go any further, I'd like to thank all of you for actually being here and serving on the council. Each of you go the extra mile for Bel Air Beach, and though we may not always agree, I still believe we make a great team. I also realize that sometimes we encounter unavoidable conflicts, and that is okay. Life happens. So occasionally we're going to have to miss a meeting. Unfortunately, it prevents, or at least it delays, city business from being conducted in a timely manner. So we are in a bit of a pickle. part of that is on me, but the reason why that happened was, I stated before that I didn't just want to put 3 people that we really didn't know that well on the council just to fill seats, especially whenever we have elected officials here on this council. So today, I'm asking the council to resume accepting applications to add a 5th council member to be selected at our October regular meeting. And for those that have already applied, Renee, I'd like for you to reach out to each of them if the council agrees, and see if they're still interested as being a possible candidate and would like to be considered again. I would also like to give those who were once concerned with Form 6 the opportunity to apply now that it is no longer required. I think that they may not even be aware that as it stands right now, it's on hold indefinitely until the courts figure it all out. So that I think it's possible that we may have more people to choose from. And I don't think it's necessary to go to 7. I would think 5 is what we need to make this council to fill the missing piece. So my question is to the council, what are your thoughts about opening up the application process, and then let's elect a 5th council member on October the 14th? Yes.
I'm in favor of that. I actually have had a couple of conversations with previous council members that I was confident the main reason that they had left the council was because of the Form 6. And now that I explained to them the current status of the Form 6 versus Form 1, they showed an interest. So
I would like to comment on that. I don't, first off, I can say that I haven't really, anyone that left because of Form 6, I hated to see them leave. However, Form 6 could always come back again, and this seat that we would be filling is, it will be occupied until 2026. So we've got 2 years, and the court system in the state of Florida have 2 years to decide what they're going to do and whether they're imposing on our privacy is actually legal or not. I haven't heard anything else about it, but here's my point I'm going to make about that. If we brought one of them back in and Form 6 came back, we'd be right back where we are now. Also, there are people that actually did complete Form 6 all throughout the county, and they just did it because they realized that this is what I have to do to do the job. So, not going to hold it against them, but I am personally, I'm against bringing anyone back that resigned strictly for Form 6. So that's my 2 cents on that.
very good.
Other comments or questions?
I agree with you 100%, Mr. Mayor, because Form 6 could be put back into place any day. Okay, and they have the right to resign. The problem I have is the Form 6 has been talked about 3 years in the state, and they knew that when they were running, it probably passed sooner than later. So I don't have a problem entertaining anybody previous from council that resigned because of Form 6, and the only one I can remember that didn't resign from Form 6 was Linda Livingston, and she noted she was moving out of here. My biggest question is, do we have a council of 7 or do we have a council of 5? And our attorney has given us, I guess, 2 versions of that. And I would like to know which one we have.
I appreciate the inquiry. I have opined most recently that you have a council of 7. I've always said that you are a council of 7 until I consistently stated that if at your full composition until November 2026, you are a council of 7.
I interpreted the import of other languages related to references to the council as to whether that meant the council as seated or the council as provided for. And I have determined that the more prudent, I think both are lawful and reasonable interpretations of your charter, but the more prudent approach to mitigate risk, which is my charge, is that charter provision also should be interpreted in a manner that references the council in its existing form on all available seats. It has always been my guidance since before the charter votes and after that were you to be of your full composition as provided for in the charter, you are a council of seven available seats. How you choose. That said, your charter also provides that the role of filling vacancies on the council is the charge and responsibility of the remaining council members. And so I wish to defer to your discretion and respect your discretion as provided for in the charter voted on and approved by your residents. And so it is left to you folks on how to fill your vacancies. But there are, in fact, and have at all relevant times since the 3 vacancies arise, been 3 vacancies. My other advice to you as you folks embark on this process is I think that there's a general agreement among all of you that you need to begin filling at least 1 seat. Whether all of you agree, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 is up to you. I would suggest that you not get, and again, to defer you in the process, you not get too mired in that. Like, start by filling at least 1, because the at least 1 vacancy is creating problems for you. I'm not saying don't have the discourse tonight, Member Bankert. I just want to answer your question and make sure that my advice on this is clear.
Well, if we have a council of 7, then we would need 4 votes to put a person on.
I disagree with that.
Well,
I've sent emails that
your analogy on that.
it's not an analogy, it's an analysis, and I appreciate your perspective, but I'm charged with interpreting the code. I work for you folks, but my interpretation of your code, harmonizing language based on the canons of statutory construction, giving every word meaning, and I did not consider this alone. I ran it by other attorneys as well to make sure that I was not reading it in a vacuum, and the consistent interpretation based on the language that says a vacancy shall be filled by a mention. Shall is compulsory language, shall be filled by a remaining vote of the remaining members of the council, and that's in 2.06C, I believe it was.
Yes, it is. But if you go prior to 206, okay, it talks about a quorum of 4.
That's actually subsequent. It's in 2.07C. And that is to the quorum, and it actually begins with an independent clause that references 2.06C as an exception there too. I understand provisions, we don't need to necessarily agree. I've given my advice, as I joked in the past, I'm a husband and a father, I give advice all the time and have it ignored. That is my interpretation. I leave it to you folks on how you wish to administer it. You are the 4 charged with how you proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I appreciate you at least putting my mind at ease. The one example that you gave me earlier was that had we lost another council member and we were down to 3, according to Mr. Banker, we could never.
No, that's not what it says.
We could never bring someone else in.
I didn't say that.
He did not say that. That's my interpretation of, if you read 2.07C to require a quorum, that would be at least 4 members or a majority of the remaining of the council, and you interpret the council as 7. That was my interpretation, that it would work, that if you interpret them consistently that way, it could work. That in practicality, Mr. Banker has never once said that, and I'm not attributing that statement to you, sir. That was my interpretation and why you have to harmonize the
I
language.
apologize.
What I was saying is C goes into action if council didn't get reduced below 1.
I see. All right, well, what's the general consensus here? I would like to bring in 1 council member, not 3. And the main reason why is because the people spoke at the last election, and it was it was nearly unanimous that this city wanted 5 council members. We have the opportunity to give that to them now. I don't believe that we're breaking any laws by doing it, and I also believe that we will be a better council if we go ahead and bring that person in, whoever it is. I understand that we will have to have a majority vote to select someone, but we can hash that out at the time, depending upon the number of candidates we have and qualifications, of course, and then debate. But that's what I'm asking to do, and I would just like to hear your thoughts on opening up the application process again and putting Renee back to work.
I absolutely support that. I do want to clarify a few things just so that we know the rules, and that is, one is that we, the remaining members of the council, as I understand, can fill a position, and we can make it one, not all, and that a majority of both of these four is what counts. Then, when 5 are in place, we are still a board of 7. Therefore, the statute is still in place that says that we have to have 4 to have a quorum. So one person can be absent, which I think, thank you for raising that. It's just coordinating people's lives has been difficult. We don't want to get in the way of getting business done. So we have to have 4, and then once the board has 5 seats filled, we still need a majority.
Still need 4 votes. So if you, in the event you have, for example, should you appoint anybody to fill a vacancy and you reach 5, no more at that time. Say you're at a moment where you have 5 council members of 7. If one of you is absent, you can still have a meeting, which is not the case presently.
Right.
However, once you have that meeting, those 4 people are still going to have to vote unanimously at that point, because you're still going to need 4 for an affirmative act.
Because it's a majority of 7.
But at least it's not stopping city business in the event that one person's out.
So the question at hand is, why would you put 7? Why would you want to put yourself back in the same situation you are now, somebody's absent? If we had 3 candidates that wanted to be on council.
One is because we're going to 5 anyway, so it's somewhat awkward to bring people in and then.
But that's not what the quorum states right now, according to the attorney. The quorum at 5 would be 3.
I think we're getting a little mired in the fine points of the language, but
I think we're setting ourselves up for a suit. That's what I'm worried about.
I think
It just sounds so
ultimately,
familiar.
Well, you know what? You have 2 attorneys here, okay? You had an attorney sitting in your seat, okay? And I'm not an attorney, but I can read. I mean, and I made these remarks last year that I believe the charter amendments could be challenged because they were poorly presented to the voting populace. You had a redundance of people apply for the council jobs, even though Form 6 was in front of them, and this council refused to accept them. I mean, I don't know why we did that. We wouldn't even have been in this situation right now. There's a man sitting right there that applied. He could have been up here. There was 2 other people right there. There was a father in the room tonight. His son wanted to be on. We could have had 7 people and go on with the council. So I didn't create this mess.
Well, I have any comments?
I'm in favor of moving forward for the 5, but I do recall some of the voting that took place, and there was, member Mankard said, I didn't create this mess, but the way you ended up voting would never have allowed us to move forward with anybody at that point. Well, I guess it could, it would have only required 3, but anyway, it was, at the time, we were not just considering 1 necessarily. I think we were open to going to 7, but nothing moved forward at that particular meeting. But currently, right now, because that's behind us, right now, I would be definitely in favor of advertising for an open position and vote on that.
Thank you. Just to refresh Mr. Roberts' memory, okay, all due respect. When the 3 candidates came in, charter amendments weren't changed yet. Remember, they had to file with
We were not filed with the Secretary of State. That was part of the check. That was part of the issue.
So we needed to have 7. Okay, that was on the record. I voted for everyone. All right. Now, 4 months later, as the charter amendments have been filed, we still need 7. So do you understand how I'm confused? So if we needed 7 in January, but until the charter amendments changed, okay, which we were technically filed, okay, we only need 5. So now we're being told by our attorney that we need 7. Now, is that not?
That's not what he
Sorry,
said.
I think
We
you're not.
need 7, and we need 4 for the quorum. Because our council remains at 7. That's what he said. Yes. Okay, so you see how I'm confused?
I've made no representations as to how many seats you folks should fill. I am deferring to you as the charter officers, or as the elected officials whose responsibility is to fill the vacancies. I at no point have opined on whether you should have 5, 6, or 7. It's frankly not my decision to make. My advice to you has simply been about your quorum, about your votes, and again, I maintain at no point have I manipulated this process or anything of the sort. I gave an opinion, and true to my duty as a public officer, in service of the public trust, I looked at the job you folks were asking me to do without any accusation, challenge, or attack, and said, I think I can manage my client's risk better. I think this is a better way to interpret this code, and I view this charter, and I advise that, and that is what I did. I work for you folks. If you're not happy with the job I'm doing, let me know. And that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. All right. Well, it sounds like I've got 3 people that are on board with moving forward. Renee, would you please advertise to start accepting applications and contact, well, there's one of them right there, but contact the prior candidates and see if they're still interested. And also, if anyone calls, please be fair. If they call and say, I want to apply, and then they have concerns about Form 6, would you please let them know that nothing is permanent. It's not permanently off. It's not permanently on. We don't know what's gonna happen. But if they do have concerns, at least let them know that hey, Form 6 is always a possibility to come back. And what I would like to do is stop taking applications 1 week before the next council meeting, and then send us up the applications for review, and then we'll vote on the 14th of October. Thank you very much. All right, any other unfinished business? Yes, Mr. Roberts.
I would like to make a motion based on Member Banker's previous motion that failed. I think it's still a good idea for our city manager and legal counsel. I know they meet many times during the week just to be a topic of discussion. When they do meet, regarding any other opportunities that would be available to us to save or get money back regarding the sheriff's contract. The reason I voted against the motion from Member Banker was I thought it was too specific regarding where we were going with it. I would just like the city manager and Mr. Moore to, during their weekly discussions, look into other opportunities for our city to get additional funding back.
Second, I don't even think that requires a motion, but if you want to go through the process, I think we can just ask, hey, would you look in, do an audit, get some information to determine whether this is something worth pursuing or not.
Agreed. And maybe some of the things that Member Banker brought up will come out of that conversation. I have no idea.
Would you like to retract your motion?
Yes.
All right. So, Mr. Reaper and Mr. Mora, you have a task assigned by the council to just look into things and give us a report based upon Mr. Baker's accusations. I guess that's the best way to say it.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. All right, any other unfinished business before we move over to council comments?
No, sir.
Had enough, huh? All right, this month we begin with Councilmember Banker.
My head's still spinning, so I don't know.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. I was actually not even going to call on you because of your other stuff. All right, Councilmember Roberts.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I have been going around and looking at the work that's being done by our contractor on the streets. Basically, when I'm coming from the east side to the west side, I take a right to go to 20th where I live, and I pretty consistently just drive through 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then I'm home to see the work that's being done. And overall, I think they're doing a pretty good job. We've had a lot of rain lately, and I take a look at the flow in the new gutters that have been put in, and for the most part, the water is flowing in the direction it's supposed to, at the rate that I think makes sense. A couple of times they've had the little devices in front of the drains, things like that, that of course is not going to let the water get out as quickly as it needs to. So I'm confident that once the construction is completed, and based on what I visualized, the water is going to flow properly, and the citizens are going to be happy. So that's all good.
All right, I appreciate that, Mr. Roberts. Councilmember Shaw Elliott.
I actually have 3 items to address tonight, so I'll try to be brief. One is tomorrow night is the second night of the Sunset Social. So we encourage all of our citizens to come on by and come to the back porch here and meet your neighbors. And so nothing in particular is scheduled, just an opportunity to come and see folks, bring the kids, bring the dogs, bring games, bring nothing. It's just a nice informal opportunity to meet. I do want to emphasize also that this is a test and that it's only going to be offered for the next 2 months, so please come and show your support. Next thing is that, as anybody may have noticed, there's an election coming up, and I encourage all of our citizens to make sure that you are registered as a voter. If you want to vote by mail or through any other alternative means, watch those deadlines, make sure that you're registered in advance of that. If you want to vote by mail, get it in on time, and you might see me there on the day of the election. I always like going and doing it in person. It's just more fun that way. The last thing I want to mention is something that will be on the ballot, and that is Amendment 2, which would establish as a constitutional right a recognition of the right to hunt and fish. And on its face and in the summary for that amendment, that seems very innocuous and something that all of us would indeed support. I want to offer people to consider some of the issues involving this amendment. One is that we already have a statute that has been in place for a long time that recognizes the right to hunt and fish. And it's not been challenged. There's no effort to try to undo that. So I think that the amendment to the Constitution would be not necessary. But there are 2 elements regarding this amendment that are not apparent. And one is that in addition to recognizing the right to hunt and fish, it includes any traditional means. And so what this means is that things that have been traditional methods of taking game will come back, even though over time they've been found to be inhumane. So things like bear traps, things like gill nets, things like spears, killing by poison, all of those things might be able to come back if we have an amendment that says there's a constitutional right to hunt and fish by traditional means. So I ask you to consider that. And lastly, it also says that hunting and fishing will become the preferred method in the state of Florida for managing wildlife. And that's a huge step. We have all sorts of measures through our agencies to look at scientific measures and other means of controlling wildlife and encouraging and supporting wildlife and supporting good conservation efforts. To say that hunting and fishing becomes the preferred method is way overreach in my view. So I encourage you to look at that. Don't be deterred by the beginning language, because this thing is far broader than the right to hunt and fish. In any event, please get out and vote.
Thank you. I don't have any comments other than thanks to everyone who actually made it to the very end. And if anyone's at home, thank you for watching. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, good night, everyone.
Sorry.
Recording stopped.